Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The first weekend of qualifying matches for the CDL this year are over, and what a set of games we had today. Loads of game 5s, loads of interesting storylines, but capped off by the snaking drama. Going into this season after snaking was GA'd a couple of weeks ago, we knew this would happen at some point. Skyz spotted snaking against Los Angeles Gullers in a crucial moment when you go on to make the comeback and eventually win the series as a result. Lots of reaction to this because the implication would be break a GA, get blacklisted from scrims, but that does not seem to be happening based on the reaction we have seen so far. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Scrappy can try his best to look, he's got a big mouth, he's a pretty witty guy, but if he comes at the king, you best not miss, And as Scrap said, someone update my picture, we saw that earlier today. Crim then says it was me, request denied. Scrappy then tries to roast him, but unfortunately you can't outwit the GOAT, and Crim comes up with, you bring up a good point, Maximus Throtus, which is just absolutely fantastic, and I will not be forgetting that one anytime soon. But Toronto Ultra, of course, did not play today. Scrappy will be back in action next weekend, but the team they beat yesterday, Los Angeles Gullers, certainly were in action today, and we'll see how that got on here in a second. I'll talk about the Rocker OpTic series tomorrow, because these games went quite late, and 4 games on a Sunday is kind of unusual, and I do sometimes need to get up kind of early on a Monday, so it is what it is. But let's talk about these series. Ravens versus Vegas to kick things off. What did I say earlier today? Ravens in 5, I think is what I said. And we got there, but wow, was this an interesting series. Like, Vegas kind of bodied them for the start of game 1. Again, another invasion hardpoint the Ravens lose relatively comfortably. And then it was a question, is Vegas' search and destroy legit after what we saw against Rocker yesterday? Or, was that just a one-off? Turns out, no. They won the game 2. They had another 2-0, and Carolina were on the edge of going down 0-6 on the opening weekend. They got 3-0'd by Heretics. They lost 2 kind of comfortable maps to Vegas, and then they had a chance to go 3-0'd, get 3-0'd again. But watching the first couple of maps, I thought, like, there's some promise in this Ravens team, but it just wasn't, they couldn't really show it. I've mentioned before the season began, I do kind of like this Ravens team, and for me it was a debate between Gwyn and really aBeZy, who's going to be my Rookie of the Year prime candidate, and today it was quite the showing from Gwyn, it's got to be said. Still mind-blowing that Surge didn't give him a chance last year, to be honest. So they do win the control 3-1. Ravens do a funny tweet here, because yesterday Vegas tweeted out as if they for some reason it was a weird vertical image such as this, and it looked like a GB proof. So that's what Ravens are taking the mick out of, basically. And then the game 4, finally Ravens came alive, really. And, I mean, this from Clay, look at this kind of 180, I guess 90-degree spin on with the sub. And, look, it's not often you see Clay with the rifle out or any SMG, but that's what he pulls off here. And they move up 124-3, I think, the start of this game 1. There was really no answer from Vegas. They eventually go down. But then it was this game 5, and this game 5 was such a mess, honestly, for Vegas. I cannot believe this map and the very next map, which was the Subliners Los Angeles Gullers one, simply masterclass of entertainment here. There was some disastrous plays, there were some great plays. This, for example, from Gwyn attaches, it's a 3 versus 4 here for Vegas on an attack. Offense is not so easy to win here on invasion. Gwyn gets 1, spins on the second, really nice play. But Vegas was still winning. They won on offense, they went up 5-3. And that was the chance, I thought, for Vegas to close out the series. And I thought they'd done so, to be honest, until they found themselves in this position. So it was a 2 versus 2. I think it was a 3v2 actually in Ravens' favor. Real probably should have got one of the kills here with the planter goes down. And then Clay, after all the drama we saw earlier today, him versus Eggs and everything like that, Clay obviously came with the fire here, and he had, honestly, a real veteran play to just hop on the bomb and defuse it. Purge had a rough series here. We'll see that in a second. Kind of wanted to big open the door to bait it, but they just didn't count on Clay making a big balls play to hop the ninja defuse, clutch it up, go to 5-5. And then the 5-5, I honestly think that Ravens kind of deserved the luck they got. I think Nero was watching the flank. Gwyn managed to sneak through and get 2 kills. So, yeah, I think it's here where Gwyn manages to make this flank. It's a 3v4 here, like, On defense as well, this Vegas should 100% close this out. But I think Nero, number 7 maybe, gets bad timing. Number 4 in Gwyn sneaks down the middle, shoots 2 guys in the back, eventually actually takes Nero out as well as he tries to come in for the trade. So he reads Nero's aggression also. Really impressive from Gwyn, attaching a 1 versus 2. Not gonna lie, the way they played this I thought was a bit suspect, right? Like, attaches on the flank, he has 30 seconds to kill 2 players, and they know who he is, and here comes Gwyn for the chow, and he goes for the double jump shot, and he gets the kill. Not necessary, but he wanted it for the ace. So round 11 ace, another game 5 round 11, and it's Ravens finally with the series on the board. And as Clay says, that's what we call in this industry an absolute breakdown, because the fact they lost that series, Vegas, and where they were, the 5-3 edge, the 4-3 round 11, so many chances. Clay versus his former team, Clay versus attached former teammate, Clay versus Standy former teammate. Loads of great storylines, and what a way for Gwyn to close out the series for his first series victory in the CDL with an ace in round 11. Some mind-blowing stuff, really. Ravens pull off the reverse sweep to beat Vegas to get their 10 points on the board. Truly just a ridiculous series, and Purge had a rough one. Now look, his damage was actually higher than Real or GodRx put up, somehow. I don't even know how these numbers can be right, but I'm trusting that they are, because Real had like 30 more kills than Purge, but apparently less damage, and 12,000 exactly. I don't know. Maybe the damage numbers aren't perfectly accurate. We'll work on that. But still, Purge had a 0.5 is really what I'm trying to get across here. 44 and 82 was not pretty in the respawn mode, and he's looking pretty good for my worst team ever entry on the Breaking Point Fantasy page, if you guys have entered that as well. Real had probably his first really impressive series here on low ping. Kind of funny, because Real looked good in their scrims when he was playing from Spain on 100 ping. Now he's on less ping, so you'd think all of a sudden he'd be frying. And, well, he kind of was today. So Ravens finally showing the glimpses of the potential that I think we've seen so far. And that was icy, I'm not going to lie. But from the Vegas side, just such a tragic way to lose. And of course, Clay afterwards says that all he had to imagine was that the other 4 guys on the other team were all Patty P, and then it was an easy dub. So this was the Ninja Defuse, of course, for Clay in question. But the big talking point of the day, really, was this series, Subliners versus Gorillas. Gorillas in this series played really well. I was massively impressed by the way they played. But there were certain situations that they kind of costed. I know that New York were also saying that they had loads of controller issues today, so apparently they were kind of going through it. But this was the moment in question, really. As you guys can tell, Gorillas 248 to 193 or something. That was the scoreline at this point in the game. Subliners bring it all the way back, but it was this particular moment in this clip from Skyz that caused the drama. So we'll come back to this in a second, but as the game moves on, somehow they hold down all of this P1 time, and it was impressive from New York to pull this off, because it's so tricky in this spot. Even when you're New York, you're trying to come back. The Los Angeles Gorillas guys can try and just hit old, get like 2 seconds. They need 2 seconds. But of course, if you're Subliners, you have to still kind of commit to ults and rotate at the same time, because you can't afford your guy on the hill to get killed with 2 seconds left and then they win the game off the scrap time. So in the end, Skyz was still in the point here on a 5 spree, very controversially so, and at this point there was 7 seconds left. So really a complete collapse of MettalZ. 2 big breakdowns in a row. They definitely should have won this map 1, and the game 2 as well, they probably should have won as well. It was absolutely outrageous. This was one of the key moments as well where Fame, you guys probably remember when Fame last year, LSCLO control or whatever it was, maybe it was a search and destroy, I think it was probably a search or something, he comes up the stairs, he looks at JoeDeceives right in front of him and doesn't kill him for some reason. So this was a less bad situation, but if Fame gets the kill on HyDra here, who's literally on the left hand side, he kills HyDra, they almost certainly win this map. But HyDra snaps up and kills Fame before he can get the other kill the other way, and they lose the game. So a couple of key moments here for Fame, and in the game 5, that really he will probably want back. So this was the first real hardpoint breakdown we've seen, I think, this season. To do it on P1 was very impressive. But it's got to be said, without the snaking, this might have been a different story. So this was spotted here, and Zuma went into it, and Zuma's opinion after the fact was pretty clear that we can see Skyz, here we are on 0.5 speeds, snaking up and down. Now this is like the prime snaking spot in the entire game. Like, this is one of those headies that it's just so tough to kill him. So Skyz goes down once, goes down twice, goes down, as we can see here in a second, for a 3rd time, then for a 4th time, and then he gets up and gets the kill. So that to me looked like at least 4 pumps of the snaking, if not 5 possibly, maybe even more. depending on the point of view that you look at. Now, it's kind of known that the pros allow you to do the snaking maybe twice, and after that, it's very much in a grey area, and I think that many people thought this was very much so over the line. And this is the issue with the snaking GA. Crucial moment. A massive comeback is potentially happening here. 248 for the other team. Pop a couple of snakes in. Become an incredibly difficult target. They can't get him out of the hill. They lock down P1. They go on to make the comeback and they win the map. So Zuma's reaction was, red card. Skyz, we've had a look into it. VAR has done the analysis. And that's a sending off. That is a clear violation of the snaking gentleman's agreement and therefore of competitive integrity. Now, some see it like this. Some see it differently. We'll get back to that in a second. Before we do, though, we've got to discuss the rest of the series. So the Subliners did eventually win this, but man, it was incredibly competitive. Like, the game 2, it went to a round 11. Another kind of collapse of Gorillas. The fact that they lost this round and this series, honestly, was crazy. Like, they really should have won all the first 4 rounds. There was some, absolute shenanigans. There was some real mess. It was a real mess, honestly, in the round 11, but Skyz eventually gets the 1v1 done to get over the line. But Gorillas bounced back. I did not expect this. They came out with a heat here on the high-rise control. They win this map in a game 5. They then go one step further and win the sub-base hardpoint as well. So all of a sudden, we're at a game 5. The game 5 does, though, it was 2-0 as well to Gorillas. So it's like both for Vegas and Gorillas today. So many opportunities to win, but I will say I'm impressed by Gorillas. Like, the teamwork was kind of there. I was pretty impressed with them, to be honest, and I think that it's just tough to say right now who the worst team are. Like, I know that there's a few candidates, but it's like there's no clear worst team, and Gorillas have showed promise, and Vegas have won a series, and, I guess maybe Carolina in the mix, but Miami looked good, and it's like a lot of teams you might think would be down there. Kind of tough to say. Assault eventually gets taken down. Skyz gets the ace in this one, and eventually Subliners win the game. In a 6-4 affair where Sib had a massive round at the end, a couple of big kills. Still dropped to 0.74 though, and Skyz with a 1.4 to win the series. Almost 20,000 damage, which is pretty absurd in this Game 5 series. But if not for the 1-2 kills that he got during that whole snaking saga, could have been a very different series indeed. So Skyz then comes out with his explanation and says, apologies for map 1, I wasn't trying to snake, I felt awkward in that corner and tried prone crawling and moving around, but it looks insane after watching it back. Genuinely feel so guilty about it, sorry to everyone. Now, I think we saw in, was it not the FaZe versus Thieves series, that in a similar set of circumstances, you don't have to do that. You can just lay down. You are allowed to just lay down. But Skyz decided, of course, not to do that and went for the alternate route and did a fair few pumps of the snaking, which the pros have agreed is not going to be allowed. So the theory is that if you break the GAs, as this seems to be, and most people tend to agree that's the case, that there will be some sort of repercussions, either that, you get blacklisted from scrims or whatever the case might potentially be. That does not seem like it's going to happen. And this is what is difficult to enforce about this GA. This is an important map 1 situation where the team was dealing with controller issues or whatever. Skyz pops a couple of snakes, they win the comeback, and Skyz afterwards says, yeah, my bad, guys. I just feel so guilty about this whole thing. I really must apologize. But, that check is still cashing, you know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing when they get to a major. So this is the thing. You break the GA, you come out and say, oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, whatever. And then people say, oh, no, it's fine, don't worry about it. Now, what I wonder is whether there'll kind of be like a strikes system here, in the sense that if this was Cellium, he'd be getting a load of stuff about this. And I know that it's happening for Skyz as well. But I feel like if it was Cell, it would even be blowing up way more than it is. But it's not Cell, it's Skyz on this particular occasion. And therefore, the reaction, even from the pros, seems to be, well, it's all right. Just promise not to do it again type thing. Because actually, the guys even from Gorillas say, your 5 or 6 pumps isn't the reason we lost. Appreciate the apology, though. We probably would have lost that anyway. So, okay, sure. They want to say, oh, don't worry, Skyz, about it or whatever. And I know that people will say they're only doing this because Friendship League and you don't want to burn bridges when you're on the fringes of being in the league. Whatever, that's another debate for another day. But I just find it interesting that Skyz seems to have eventually got away with this. But as I say, I wonder if they'll give Skyz, in the back of the pro's mind, they'll have okay, that's 1 strike for Skyz. The next time that happens, then we actually are going to commit. Because maybe you get 1 offense. But then again, if you do that one offense in a grand finals of a major, it's a very different story to in the first league match of the season, at least, well, second league match of the season, I guess, for both parties. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below on this one. Very interesting. And I do not imagine this is going to be the last of such talking points we're going to have this season. Sib also just trash talked them after the fact as well and just said they're terrible, which is kind of a funny thing to say when you went all the way to a game 5, round 10, and Sib kind of got slammed this series. But, you know, whatever. They did get the victory in the end. The final series to mention before we close out today, there was Los Angeles Thieves versus FaZe. And I think I maybe said earlier today that FaZe looked a bit shaky in the first series, but I think many people expected them to look particularly good this evening against Thieves. They tend to just, I don't know, something about this Thieves versus FaZe matchup. I remember that matchup they played back in Cold War where they were literally getting embarrassed and choke slammed, and aBeZy was assassinating Venom on that checkmate control for the game. Obviously, Thieves bring up a funny video here of when we've got Drazah trash talking FaZe last season. Now a very different story. And Simp started off hot map 1. He finished the series hot as well. Thieves played okay here. I think they had their chances, but it was just a couple of close situations that went FaZe's way. I'm not going to lie, of all the teams I've watched so far, FaZe have been the only one really that have, across both series they've played, massively impressed me. I mean, even the first series against Boston was a bit suspect, I'm not going to lie, but it was their first series, went game 5. This one was kind of the FaZe that I expected to see. And sure, the control was kind of close, went to around 5, and Afro started off 6-0 in the search and destroy, but then FaZe bounced back, and just such a hard team to beat. So in the end, it goes all the way to around 5, but there was nothing in the end that Thieves could do. They go down at the series, and that they get 3-0 chokeslammed by FaZe. It was a close one, right, for sure. But Simp had a monster performance here in this series. There's no doubt about it. Potential Mr. MVP candidate for the season, because 150 HP Call of Duties, Simp seems to be back, no doubt. He goes on to drop a 1.4 in the series, aBeZy has a 1.2, Cellium has a 1.5. So what you're going to do, to be fair, again, the maps were close, but I just thought that it almost felt like FaZe were going to win, you know what I mean? If you watch the series, maybe you feel the same way, maybe you don't. But the numbers definitely play that out in reality. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. We shall discuss this series tomorrow morning. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.